My question to Netflix is, what part of your recommendations algorithm meant that I never got to hear about Money Heist while I was being incessantly prompted with trailers for The Break? It's like finding out that you've been eating cabbage when you could have been having tacos. Yo amo los tacos! Money Heist Part 1 is a Spanish Netflix original series which has been out for a while now and seems to be heading for a Part 3. Here, I am only going to talk about what Netflix calls Part 1, which is the first 13 episodes. They do seem to be trying to move away from the language of season, which I think is probably going to cause as many problems as it alleviates. If you haven't seen it, I won't be spoiling anything, and if you have seen it, you might want to hear my thoughts anyway as like a foreign series guy, showing up very late to the party on this one, but anyway, here we go. Money Heist is in fact called The Mint, or The House of Bills, depending on how you translate it in the original Spanish. It is entirely in European Spanish. It would be excellent if you're a Spanish learner. If you're learning one of the Latin variations of Spanish, like Mexican Spanish or Argentinian Spanish, I still think it would be good. You just need to be aware of some of the differences. The reason that I think it would be so good as a Spanish learner is, one, because it is very long. It is 12 hours. Even I picked up some Spanish in that time, and I'm not learning Spanish. The other is because it crosses quite a lot of genres and styles. There's a lot of formal Spanish, there's informal Spanish. They talk about all sorts of different things. Stuff criminals talk about, stuff police talk about, stuff everyday people talk about. It would be a really, really good series for language learning. I'll put a link in the description for a browser plugin that allows you to vary the speed of Netflix either up or down, because you might want the characters to speak more slowly so that you can understand them. No entiendo. This is the most exciting series I've seen in a very long time. That's not to say that it's the best, but what this series really nails is setting up that anticipation of something happening and then subverting your expectation, and the subversion of that makes just as much sense, if not more sense, than what you are actually expecting. I really like caper movies, or I really like good ones. I don't feel like there are that many good ones though. The Next 3 Days would be one of my favourites, because I feel like that movie convinces you that the things Russell Crowe does would actually work if you were to want to do what his character is doing. That's the same with this series. Now, it's a little bit more obvious that what they're doing would not actually work in the real world, so if you're one of those people who demands realism in everything they watch, just skip this, it's not for you. But this isn't realistic, it's convincing. It's like a Christopher Nolan movie. Christopher Nolan movies are generally, except Dunkirk, not realistic, but they are convincing, and that's actually more important. I was amazed at how this series was able to keep turning the plot in ways we didn't expect without getting into just plain stupid territory. Some caper movies can't even last their own 2 hours without getting into something that's just completely ridiculous. This series is able to go much, much longer without going into that territory. Be warned, do not start this series if you have something to do, because it's extremely addictive. Having said that, I would have appreciated it if some of it was a little bit more dialed back. So there's a lot of sexiness and a lot of stylization. Some of the stylization I don't feel really fits with the rest of the series, and it just felt a bit jarring to see that kind of stylization happening. And the sexiness is just incessant. I know that it keeps people coming back and watching, but there's just so many characters having sex, talking about sex, playing in their underwear. It just gets a bit stupid. The other thing is, in place of that, what we're missing is a lot of explanation about, like, how did these guys get access to the computer system? How did they get access to the camera system? Where did they get these military-grade weapons? All that could have been explained, and that would have been the sexiness for me, is in, like, the heist of the thing. Whereas we can't see that, because instead we're watching a woman who, like, 2 hours ago was shot in the leg, and now she's having sex standing up. Clearly these writers have never been shot in the leg. There are also some things that just don't quite line up. As I said, the whole thing's convincing enough, but for example, the mastermind of the whole operation, in some scenes he doesn't know things that he definitely would know given the access he has. They do the right thing, which is when something in your script doesn't quite make sense, just skim over it, write some more excitement in there, hope we don't notice, but it's just, if you think about it closely, you think, well, how does he not know that? Also, food keeps turning up from somewhere. I don't know where, but I hope someone's tipping the pizza boys because they are getting it done. What I like about this series is that it feels like a throwback to sort of the late 90s, early noughties, when, in my opinion, American screenwriting was at its peak. But since then, I feel like we've become so obsessed with having things new and fresh and different that sometimes we're new and fresh and different at the cost of actually being interesting and good, and things just get a little bit silly. This series feels a bit more classic. It's Spanish, but it feels like American from kind of 15 years ago, but still very fresh. When it subverts our expectations, it does that not because it just thinks that that's what we all want. It does that because when it does so, it creates more drama. I'm not going to talk about hopes and expectations for Season 2 because it already exists and it would seem silly. It'd just be like, well, why don't you just go and watch it already? But I will say that if Season 2 sees them leaving the Mint and Season 3 is therefore going to follow them in their lives elsewhere, then I would think that would be really interesting. I could possibly be up for that depending on how it's done. But if Season 3 carries on in the Mint, I think that's way too long spent in the one place, and I think it's pretty unrealistic as well. It's just a little bit of a shame that the Netflix business model profits from drawing things out for as long as possible, because I think this series could have made an amazing standalone, maybe 16 episode series. But we know that they're never going to do that. They're always going to draw things out for as long as they possibly can in order to keep us watching. But hey, better than watching the break. So guys, if you, like me, had not heard of this one yet, then I absolutely recommend you check it out. It's the best series I've seen in quite some time. It's got drama, it's got action, thriller, caper movie. There's something for everyone in there. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you, like me, enjoy all things foreign, movies, TV series, etc., then please consider watching my other videos so you can see more reviews. Please consider subscribing, which helps motivate me to make more of these for you guys. Wherever you are, whatever language you speak, I hope you really enjoy this. Hasta luego.